Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So obviously, as you can tell by the title of this video, you know that I have given birth to my little baby girl, and as well as if you follow me on Snapchat, you already knew exactly when it happened. So I'm here to tell you the story of my labor and delivery, everything that happened leading up to, during, and after. So yeah, this will be my labor and delivery story, and then we'll try to see at the end of me filming if I can grab my baby and bring her up here and then share her name and kind of just give you a little sneak peek of her. Before you guys leave, don't forget to subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. Give the video a thumbs up. If you guys want to see my amazing labor and delivery story with no meds, keep on watching. Okay, so if you follow me on Snapchat, you know when everything happened. So basically, my last video was my what's in my hospital bag video. I was in the middle of filming that video and uploading it when my water broke. That's the day that everything happened. So basically, let's just rewind a tiny bit. Tuesday, February 7th, we had a normal doctor's appointment, and I was 36 weeks and 6 days. And my doctor asked me if I wanted to be checked internally to see if there was any progress. And of course I said yes, because I wanted to know if I had progressed at all as far as dilation and anything like that goes. She checked me and I was about 2 centimeters dilated and like 70% effaced, which was exactly where I was the week prior. So I was a little bit discouraged. I didn't want her to come so early, but at the same time, because I'm on maternity leave earlier, like a month earlier than expected, I didn't want to waste a ton of time without her, so I was like a little bit disappointed that nothing had progressed a little bit, you know? So we left that doctor's appointment, everything was fine, my blood pressure was great, healthy, and then I came home and I filmed my what's in my hospital bag video. Got done, I started editing the video, and I was sitting at my computer, and I started to get like some Charlie horses in my belly, but I've had them before during pregnancy, so I didn't think anything of it. It was like only, I don't know, maybe a couple of them, so I thought I just needed to drink water. I was dehydrated. I went downstairs and my boyfriend and I started to make dinner, and we randomly made egg salad sandwiches for dinner, which we never have, but I was craving it. So my boyfriend went into the spare room and he was watching like a movie, and I was watching a different show while I was eating my dinner because of the schedule with filming and whatnot. So I was in the living room by myself, and I got halfway through my dinner, and all of a sudden I felt this like this air bubble kind of in my vagina, and I don't want to say the word queef, but that's what it felt like was going to happen. So it was almost like a pop of an air bubble coming down my vagina, and I just sat there and I heard it, and I put my sandwich down, and I thought quickly to myself, am I losing my mucus plug right now? Like, that's the only thing I could imagine. I stood up, and all of a sudden my water just burst absolutely everywhere. So I'm rushing to the bathroom, yell to my boyfriend, tell him my water just broke. He's like, are you sure? Are you sure it's not pee? And as I'm running to the bathroom, it is just coming out like crazy amounts of fluid just coming out, and I fully knew that my water had just broken. It was clear, it didn't have an odor to it whatsoever, and it was just gushing out. It was like hot water. It didn't really feel like I was peeing. I know a lot of women describe it as that. So here I am in the bathroom, on the toilet, stripping my clothes off of me that were soaked. My boyfriend calls the doctor immediately and is letting them know my water broke. And so they said, get her in here as soon as possible. So in those moments, I went through an adrenaline rush and my body just started shaking. I was excited, nervous, totally unexpected, because a few hours earlier, the doctor's appointment had said there was no progression. So we're running around gathering the bags and gathering some snacks and just things, anything we can think of. And meanwhile, it's snowing here in Maine. We're about to have a snowstorm, and it was like 6 inches at that time. So we're, you know, getting into the car, throwing bags down. My boyfriend puts a towel down in my car. Meanwhile, I'm changing my clothes, and I put a pad on thinking I'll be fine. I knew once your water breaks, it leaks from then on out, basically. So I put a big pad on with wings and like all-nighter one, a long one, thinking I would be fine. We're halfway there and my water just starts gushing even more, like floodgates again. Needless to say, my clothes were soaked, the pad had no use. Thank God for the towel down on my car seat. So my water broke at 8 p.m. We got to the hospital around 8:45. I wasn't having any contractions whatsoever, no Braxton Hicks. There was no sign of labor at all. It was just a water bursting. But I know as soon as that happens, you have to get to the hospital because, you know, the baby's exposed to bacteria and the membrane is broken. We get to the main entrance of the hospital door and it's closed down because it closes at 8. But there was a gentleman outside. My boyfriend parks the car. It says her water just broke. The guy holds the door for us. We go in. Meanwhile, I have the towel like draped around my bottom because my pants are absolutely drenched at this point. I was mortified, but I almost looked probably more stupid with the towel around me. So I didn't want the wheelchair. I wasn't in pain or anything, and I didn't want to sit in my own wetness. So we go up to the birthing suite and we check in. I immediately derobe and put on a gown. My water's just dripping out constantly. So I get on the bed and the nurse checks me with like a little swab and sees that yes, it's amniotic fluid, so your water did indeed break, and they called it a gross rupture, meaning it fully broke on its own, which is actually pretty rare. I hear only like 10 to 15% of women's water breaks naturally. This sounds super weird, but I've always dreamt of my water just breaking, kind of like the movies. I thought that would be a really cool experience. So I'm really happy that that happened that way. It was the coolest experience ever. And then she checks me internally and I'm still 2 centimeters, and she said about 80% effaced. And I'm like, great, this is gonna be a really long night. This was about 8:45 and my water had broken at 8. So 45 minutes later, and internally I was the same. They give me an IV of fluid because if you want any sort of pain meds, you have to have at least 1 bag of fluid in you before they can do any of that. Then everything kind of calmed down. Meanwhile, I'm still shaking like crazy, and they checked my blood pressure and it was, I have no idea what it was. They wouldn't tell me because it was so high. I was just full of adrenaline and nerves. I can't even describe it. It was like an uncontrollable shake. The nurse kind of gave us a little tour of the birthing area and we walked around the hall for a little bit. And I remember asking her, I said, okay, so like, when am I gonna know to come get you, or when things are happening, because I'm not feeling anything right now at all? And she's like, well, I'll just kind of let you do your thing for a while, and you know, you'll know and I'll know. I'll hear your breathing, we'll all know. So I'm like, okay. So we get back to the room. My boyfriend and I like are chilling, thinking it's gonna be a really long night. And I'm sitting there, and then by 10:30, I remember I was on the phone with my mom. So 2 hours later, I was on the phone with my mom, and she's asking me how I'm feeling, and I was having like what I would call Braxton Hicks. And I was talking to her, and I'm like, yep, I'm having another one, and it was just a Braxton Hicks to me. It felt like just tightening in my lower abdomen. It didn't feel painful whatsoever or uncomfortable whatsoever. It was just a Braxton Hicks. So that, I want to say, lasted for probably the next hour, maybe hour and a half. Around midnight is when, meanwhile, the nurses, like, she peeks her head in. She's like, how are you doing? You know, I have this monitor strapped to me for the baby's heartbeat and for my contraction monitoring, and they're looking for a pattern. She asked me how I'm doing, and I said, I'm doing fine. I mean, I'm doing fine. So she leaves us alone. My boyfriend and I are hanging out, and I get up because I knew I didn't want to sit in the bed because I've heard so many things about labor being harder if you just sit there in bed. So I wanted to be mobile and, you know, move my hips and just get things loosened up, I guess. So I was sitting on the chair, I was walking around, and then I started having what they call contractions. And to me, going into this, my first birth, I had absolutely no idea what to expect for contractions. I thought I would feel pain and intense tightening and just the most pain I've ever felt my entire life, and it wasn't like that for me whatsoever. It felt like a really uncomfortable period achiness down in my lower abdomen area. So I started having those types of contractions, and I actually didn't even know those were going to be the labor contractions. I started feeling those, and I would tell my boyfriend, and they weren't that bad. and then they weren't regular whatsoever to me. I was looking at the little monitor, it printed my contractions out, and they were like sporadic. They didn't last a certain amount of time. There wasn't a certain amount of time in between them. It was nothing like that. I expected, okay, 60 seconds they lasted and they were 5 minutes apart. No, it was, to me, it was so random. Next thing I know, I'm having more uncomfortableness. Whenever the contraction would come on, it would be just super, super uncomfortable. And I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. I felt like I had to poop the entire time. And here I am thinking I had egg salad sandwich for dinner. Great, that's the worst dinner I could have ever had before giving birth. So I'm constantly trying to go to the bathroom, but I can't go. Little did I know that was the pressure of the baby's head down there. It's very common to feel like you have to poop, but it's the baby's head. So I'm trying to like push one out in the bathroom, and little did I know it was the baby. My contractions started to get super uncomfortable, and I would breathe heavily kind of through them, but I had no idea that it was actual labor contractions. I thought it was very early labor. Next thing I know, I said, okay, like, you're getting pretty uncomfortable. I'm thinking I'm gonna get in the bed. So I got in the bed and I'm sitting there, and I probably have 2 contractions that are pretty uncomfortable and I'm breathing through. And then all of a sudden I started to feel the kind of cramping move to my lower back. And that was pretty uncomfortable. Next thing I know, the nurse peeks her head in and she goes, "How you doing?" Because she's watching the monitor at the desk the entire time, so she knows what I'm going through. She goes, "How you doing?" And I just looked at her and I remember saying, "I'm not smiling anymore." And she comes in and, you know, asks me where I'm feeling the pain or uncomfortableness, and I said in my back, and she's like, "Okay, so that means the baby has turned." So she was head down, but her face was the wrong way. So she goes, "We're gonna need to get you out of the bed. I'm gonna put you on the bouncy ball." So I get on the bouncy ball and I start having a contraction, and the nurse drives her fist or palm or something into my spine, and it immediately relieves the pressure and feels phenomenal. I almost couldn't even feel the contraction. I'm on the bouncy ball and my hips and my legs are spread really wide to kind of open my pelvis, and all of a sudden I got this wave of like a hot flash, and I felt like I was gonna vomit. So they get me a bag and I start throwing up in it. And then right after that, the nurse said, "Okay, we're gonna need to get you on the bed again. I'm gonna need to check you." Little did I know that the reason why she said that was because a lot of women, once they start to throw up, they're about like 9 centimeters, 8-9 centimeters at that point. That's what the nurse told my boyfriend. So I get on the bed, she checks me, and she goes, "No, you didn't. No." And I was like, "What? Don't tell me like I've made no progression," because no one wants to hear that. She goes, "Yeah, you're about like 8-9 centimeters right now. We gotta get the doctor in here." And I'm like, what? This all happened in an hour and a half. Hour and a half, I went from 2 centimeters to almost fully dilated and ready to go. So she pages for the doctor, and I'm on the bed and they're getting me all ready, ready. And I have one more contraction, and it was like the most intense, uncomfortable feeling in the entire world, like in my body. And all of a sudden, I just remember saying, "Oh my God, I need to push, the baby's coming, she's coming. Like something was halfway out, and I needed to push it completely out to relieve that feeling. And it was the most intense. Like, I didn't know if I would know how to push, when to push, if I needed to push, all that stuff. You know, I mean, I didn't have an epidural. I didn't have any painkillers, anything like that, because it happened so quick for me that I didn't even have time to think that I needed it. And it just progressed from 0 to 100 like so quick that I didn't even need it or ask for it, or I thought I was still in the beginning stages of labor. So anyway, so at that point the nurse is saying, no, you're not gonna push, It's before the doctor got in the room. One of the nurses was like, "Okay, we're gonna give you this shot," but this shot that was basically like a 2-hour pain reliever, and you could still get up and move around and walk around and everything. They just offered it to me and said they were going to give it to me. And I didn't ask for anything at that point. I was like, okay. So next thing I know, the doctor's coming in. So she suits up and gets down. They put my feet up in the stirrups and drop the bed, I guess. I don't know. Everything was kind of a whirlwind at this point. And next thing I know, my boyfriend said that the nurse came in with the the pain shot, and the doctor was like, nope, we're having a baby right now, it's too late for that. And I mean, I didn't even care at this point. I wanted to push and I was ready. I didn't care about pain because I didn't feel pain. I felt uncomfortable, like a very uncomfortable sensation down there. Weird to say that it wasn't painful because a lot of women say it's painful. I don't know. To me, pain is like sharp, like knife pain, like shooting, but it wasn't like that for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. The nurse looks at me and she goes, okay, we're gonna push now. We're gonna start pushing. And I was like, what? Okay, like, holy crap. This whole thing escalated from nothing to something like so quickly. I just could not believe it. So my boyfriend's on my left. All the doctors and nurses, well, my doctor and the nurses were all in there. They wheel out this table with like scissors and tin bowls and just the doctor's getting her gloves on and her shoes covered, and it's just this whole scene. Next thing I know, they're like, okay, so the next contraction you have, you're gonna push through it. I didn't take any Lamaze classes. I didn't take any birthing classes. I'm like, all right, hopefully I know what I'm doing here. So next thing I know, they tell me to push. So I hesitantly pushed. And mind you, I was really nervous. I was really scared to push. I didn't want to poop. I don't know why that was my main concern, but I didn't want to poop. And then I also knew that I wasn't numb, so I was kind of waiting to feel a tear. The first 2 times I pushed, I kind of half-assed it because I was scared. And the doctor looks at my boyfriend and me, and then she goes, okay, well, I'm gonna go catch another baby. I'll be right back. And I'm like, what? It was because she knew that I wasn't ready to push. I was too kind of scared to push. And so she left, and my labor nurse comes and sits in front of me, and she's like, okay, the next contraction we're gonna push. And I'm thinking, I almost asked her, are you ready to catch this baby? Because if she comes out, you're catching her. I'm not, you know, whatever. And she goes, are you afraid to push or something like that? She called me out on it, and I was like, yeah, I'm nervous. And she's like, don't be, just push. And the next contraction, I pushed harder, and I pushed deep, and basically the only way I can describe pushing is literally like pooping. There's no other way to describe pushing with all your might down there, and that's the only way I know how to describe it. You push like you're pooping, or at least I did. I think I had like 2 or 3 pushes with her. The doctor comes back in. Meanwhile, I'm sweating my butt off. I have a cold washcloth on the back of my neck. My boyfriend has a cold washcloth with him, and he's trying to comfort me. He's like trying to put it on my forehead, and he's nervous and he doesn't really know how to comfort me, but at the same time, like, this whole crazy thing's about to happen. We're about to have a baby, so he's like, you know, preoccupied. So he's kind of going like this to me, petting me like a dog, and trying to put the cold washcloth on my face, and it's like, get it off me. And I just looked at him and I just kept swatting his hand away. He was bugging me. It was like petting me like a friggin' dog, which is cute because he was trying to comfort me, but at the same time, I wasn't having anything he was doing. The nurse could have done it and I probably would have been fine, but my boyfriend was doing it, and I was like, nope, get away from me. They tell me to, next time I push, they tell me to grab my own legs, grunt down, like put my chin down and grunt like I'm crunching. And so once I did that, I was 100% pushing way better and with more intent. Well, in total, I pushed for 30 minutes. But I only really tried, like intently pushed for, I don't know, maybe it was like 15, 20, it was probably 20 minutes. It honestly didn't feel like it was 20 minutes at all, but at the same time, every push I remember saying after every push, I just want her out, I just want her out, you know, I just want her out, and everyone's probably thinking like, well, no shit, you want her out. But I just remember I kept saying that, and I remember swearing, like I would grunt down and I would push really, 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 really hard, and then afterwards I would swear or grunt, like let out a really big grunting noise. And they said actually grunting helps because it allows you to breathe. So a couple of pushes, I pushed so hard that I felt like I was gonna black out and pass out. After the push, everything went black. I swear to God, I saw like birdies flying around my head. The bed was spinning. I was lightheaded, and I just kept saying, I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna pass out. I can't push. I'm gonna pass out. So they gave me an oxygen mask to up my oxygen, and that was so annoying. It was like this little oxygen mask. That's the last thing I wanted, was to feel suffocated, even though at the same time it was giving me oxygen so I wouldn't pass out. So I had 2 pushes, I believe, that honestly I thought I was gonna black out on. I looked over at my boyfriend, and everyone kept saying, you're so close. And I remember asking the nurse beforehand, I said, please don't tell me I'm close if I'm not, because I don't want to be bullshitted. She goes, nope, don't worry, I won't say that. So they said I was close, so I looked over at my boyfriend, and he's nodding his head yes like this. So I'm wondering what the hell's happening. Can you see the head? Like, what's going on? So the next push, I am pushing so hard, my eyes are closed, and I feel her coming out. And I remember, I think they were saying her head's out or something like that. Next thing I know, I feel this like slippery, slimy limbs and bodies and coming out. Like, I felt like she was just slipping out with ease. Next thing I know, I still have my eyes closed and I still feel like I'm pushing, and the doctor said, open your eyes, it's your baby. And I opened my eyes, and they have her held up like this, and the whole moment for me was so surreal, and I was in shock that I just looked, and I don't even remember. They just plopped her on my chest. They wiped her down a tiny bit. They plopped her on my chest, and my boyfriend and I are looking at each other, and I'm looking at her, and I just kept saying, oh, my baby. And then I was shaking from adrenaline. The whole thing happened so quickly, and it was so beautiful. You can't describe that feeling. Like, when they first put her on me, I don't want to cry because I'm so emotional since giving birth and being pregnant. It's just the best feeling on earth. While I have my baby girl on my chest, the doctor's pulling the placenta out, and I thought I would have to push it out. I don't know, I thought I would have a contraction and push it out, but the doctor kind of like pulls on it and pulls it out, and my boyfriend cuts the umbilical cord, which is kind of like this little rubbery thing, and our umbilical cord, or her umbilical cord, was actually pretty short. I guess it was like this long, only probably like a foot. I expected it to be this big long thing, but hers was really short. Placenta, I couldn't feel it whatsoever when she took it out. It was just kind of like, it's exactly how it felt. The doctor starts stitching me up. It felt like she was sewing a corset for like 50 times. Little did I know it was only like 3 stitches or something like that. I had a 2nd-degree tear, which is middle of the road. It goes up to 4th-degree tear, and I had no meds, I wasn't numb, nothing. Like, I had no meds whatsoever, and I didn't feel the tear at all. So don't be afraid of that, at least for me. I didn't feel it whatsoever. It's weird because my boyfriend was saying I like tore on the inside versus like the whole way down to your butt. That's what I imagined tearing would be, but no, I tore kind of, a lot of blood was lost. My boyfriend said like they have like almost like a tarp down beneath you, and it was full of blood, so you lose a lot of blood. Well, the only thing that hurt was, I guess they gave me a Novocaine shot right before she started sewing me, and it was just a little sting. And so that was a piece of cake, and meanwhile you're holding your baby, so you don't care about anything else. She was 4 pounds, 14 ounces, 18 inches long. She was born on February 8th. At 2:11 a.m. The entire process from the moment when my water broke to the moment she was out was 6 hours. I only had contractions for about 2 hours. It's pretty much it for that part. And then after all that, everything was a whirlwind. She's like wrapped up and swaddled and in our arms. Next thing I know, I'm like walking to the bathroom with like a diaper on, legit, the mesh booty shorts, boy shorts with like a big spread out diaper pad, and I'm going to the bathroom and there's blood clots happening. I peed, and then it stung just a tiny bit to pee, but I had to pee really bad. I was hooked up to this IV of fluid, so I had to pee. So that stung just a tiny bit, and I had tons of blood clots, and the nurse was squirting the bottle of water for me down there so that it would feel better, and that felt really good. And then we got myself an ice pack to put literally right on top of the diaper, so I just had this saggy diaper, but it felt so good. And then we're walking down the hallway a few short minutes later, it feels like. I'm sure, I think they gave us like an hour or two to chill, but it felt like 5 minutes. So we walked down the hallway to the recovery room with her and with me, and I'm feeling fine. Everyone's asking if I need Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever their, you know, pain relief. And I'm like, no, am I supposed to be feeling pain? I feel fine. It felt for me afterwards like a metallic pressure down there. It didn't feel painful whatsoever for me. And like I said, a 2nd degree tear. Maybe I have a high pain tolerance. Maybe I don't know. My experience was phenomenal. So don't be afraid of labor. Seriously, do not be afraid of labor and delivery. Go into it headstrong if you've never done it before and you're really nervous. And if you need the epidural, who cares? Get the epidural. Do what's good for you. You know your own body, and you'll know what you need at the time. And your doctors will also be able to tell you, you know, how far along you are as far as, you know, how long this process is going to be. Kind of, they'll know a little bit. We're in the recovery room and I'm swelling a lot. My feet and my ankles are so swollen, and that is from the IV. And you know, everyone's been warning me that you'll swell a ton after birth, and you do. And you lose a lot of blood. That day, first 24 hours, I lost so much blood. The whole process is so amazing, and I respect my body so much more now that I've gone through it. My body literally knew what to do. It did it on its own, and it flooded me with so much adrenaline that I could not stop physically shaking, that I think the adrenaline just masked any pain. That if I was gonna feel pain, my body just took care of it and was like, you can do this, you're meant for this, you know, this is what woman's body's made for. So the whole process was so amazing. My baby girl is sleeping right now. I don't really want to wake her up with all these bright lights, so I'm really sad. I'll insert pictures instead of putting her on camera. But her name is Sydney Elizabeth, and we're obsessed with it. SYDNEY. If you have any questions or if I skipped over anything, read the description box below, because if I missed anything, I'll just plop it in there. Leave me a comment or a question. Yeah, so thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.